Hi everybody, Monica Bodirski here, artist and author of the Shadowland Tarot and the 4th edition of the House of Shadows Lenormand Oracle, which, yes, I will say yet again, thank you for all of your support because it is nearly sold out and it's only been a few weeks. So thank you. Well, I hope you had a wonderful week. I hope you've been watching these videos and enjoying them. Thank you so much for your comments and the feedback. I think you're really helping others when you're offering your own experiences and your own thoughts. So thank you so much for that. Today, I'm going to answer a question that I received quite a bit. And yes, I received it again. And as promised, I'm going to start answering a few of those questions, okay? This question is along the lines of, ambiguity, not just in reading, but I suppose in what I'm expressing or what other people who read tarot, professionals, are expressing. It comes across as very ambiguous because there's no particular point of reference for people. So I thought I would put together a few videos, this is part one, of what I would call secrets. Ah yes, inner sanctum. Come here, people. Shh. Secrets to a really good tarot reading, whether you're giving it to yourself, whether you're giving a reading to friends, or whether you're doing it professionally, whether you're a beginner or really have been reading for a long time. I think these are things that can assist you. Now, I will mention again, not out of ego, just out of context here. I've been reading for over 40 years. And I am highly intuitive, and I've also done some serious book work, some book learning here, okay? And my reading style is a combination of both of those things. So I am combining my head and my heart, I like to say. Others may say your head and your gut, but we'll get to that in a second, okay? So what we're going to talk about today is the very first thing that I think is vital, which is self-awareness. And self-awareness is a real key to almost everything that you're going to do with the reading, because you know that we're very subjective creatures, humans, and we often, through transference or projecting, will express things to people that are actually our issues or on our mind. So the whole thing with self-awareness is, that's been bugging me or on my mind or a concern of mine. So I'm not going to, as soon as I see that card, toss that at you, okay? And that takes a little bit of practice. And I must say, it's difficult. I have received a few readings, mind you, I've received some marvelous readings where people are reaching into themselves, their experience, their head and their heart combined, and coming up with just phenomenal things for me. And others, though, that I can really tell are still struggling with maybe memorizing what they're reading, or completely using their gut feeling on this, or just reading the visuals. And sometimes cold reading, which we don't necessarily do on purpose, which is looking at a client, if they come in and they're looking really haggard and tired, and someone who's offering a reading says, "You're really tired and you've got a lot on your mind." Hang on. Don't we all have a lot on our mind? I think so. So let's talk about the self-awareness a little bit in terms of, how that's going to affect your reading other than what I've just told you about that. You might not really be aware of whether you're being accurate or not because you haven't located that feeling in your body. That is going to be on another video when I talk about your gut feelings. What does that mean? What does that mean even? Like, oh, I can feel it in my gut. Well, I don't know. It's not a gut feeling for everybody. Sometimes people get tingling on their arms, or they just have the little hairs. Woo! They get that weird, maybe butterflies in their stomach, and maybe that's a gut feeling. Or they just hear a buzzing in their ears. I've heard of this one as well. They feel something in their chest, and not like some horrific elephant sitting on your chest. You just feel something that says, yep, that's it. It's like a confirmation. You locate that in your body, okay? Other things. What are other things? Well, you need a deck that resonates with you for sure. Because if you don't have a deck that resonates with you, you can do all the book learning you want. It's not going to help. It's something that I really stress so people aren't always looking everything up in the book. Okay? It's neither memorization nor just completely flying by the seat of your pants. Okay? And we'll get into that a little bit. Reading in context, I've mentioned that a fair bit. Context, yes, context really does matter a great deal. You know, it's not a cold reading. The context is not what the person has told you. They can tell you all sorts of stuff. Sometimes I've had readings that are the opposite of what clients have told me. And yes, that takes a certain amount of confidence, which takes us back to self-awareness, but we'll get into that. But you also need to think of the other cards that are showing up, so that you really do need to unite your head and your heart in this one, because the cards can read completely differently when they are together. You know, and I've mentioned this when I'm teaching my tarot classes. Oh, I've got another intensive coming up. If you want to learn more, sign up, because there are not that many spaces left, okay? Reading in context of cards can completely flip. So, I mean, a card can be considered being completely helpless or in one situation, but it can mean that you're being empowered in another, depending on the surrounding cards. I'll also share a bit about that. Also, good questions, clear questions. We know that is important. You need to have a question that is very clear. Sometimes if you just say yes or no, well, like I've mentioned before, people have their own way of reading. Oh, swords will always mean no, and cups will always mean yes. You can assign things, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I've always found better results when you ask a really good question, meaning there are different avenues for that. What will happen if I choose A? What is the likely outcome of B? Okay? People ask me, well, how do you know? This is what it's all boiling down to. When I'm reading cards, I've often had students of tarot. When I'm giving professional readings, there are people who have dabbled or just started learning tarot. And they'll look at me and go, well, how did you read that out of that? Because I read that. Okay, that's the first thing. Forget what you read. And the second thing, I'm reading it in context. The third thing, I'm looking at the art, but I'm also going to a space. Okay, I have to be quite frank. I go to that sort of light trance state, which leads me to another point for a secret for a really good reading. Spirituality, your belief system, spiritual timing. Are there certain, which comes back to self-awareness. If you know you're not good reading at certain times or days, or if you're a real proponent of the moon and certain phases, or we all know Mercury retrograde. Oh my God, don't even communicate. It's retrograde. If that is part of your belief system, don't read. Don't read then. Don't give readings then. Time things. You'd be surprised how many people do not think of that. They just think, my readings are over here, my spiritual beliefs are over here, okay? You got to integrate these things, okay, if you want a really good reading experience, giving or receiving, okay? All right, so in part one here, I'd like to talk about the self-awareness a little bit, and again, transference or projecting. This occurs all the time, and I don't have the heart to tell people when they try to tell me what my cards mean that they are way off base, okay, because I am very self-aware and I'm also objective. But I've gone for readings, let's just say on rare occasion when I've had not such great readings, and I will have people who are not following their head and their heart, and they're not often they're probably never aware that they're taking their own concerns or their own thoughts and they're projecting them onto you or transferring them onto you. So here's the Empress card, okay? And it is fairly common to have an Empress who's pregnant, right? It's Mother Nature, nature cycles, and often considered a mother figure and nurturing, care, self-care, caring for others, perhaps even a mother. Hence the, stomach here, giving birth. And I've had people read that card for me and go, oh, you want a baby so badly. They'll look at literal things and they'll just read that. And, well, how do I know as a reader, if I were to do that for someone, how would I know whether that's true or not? I need to know all of those things I told you. It's in the question. It's in me having many years of experience and knowing the body reactions I'm having when I'm starting to sneak up on the point, the truth, and bang, when I've hit it right on. And that is independent of a client nodding or smiling or encouraging in any way, shape, or form. It is just your own knowing, all right? So I've had people maybe project their own desires for whatever is lacking in their life or whatever issue they've had. Oh, you're trying to get pregnant so much. I'm like, no. And they were, as it turns out. I think sometimes this sort of reading will become apparent to people, you would hope. If after a while, after about the fourth or fifth client that's come in when you're reading the Empress card, and they all want to get pregnant or they're all desiring a baby, although, it could be some people, and I'm not being, really facetious, it's just a fact. Sometimes people will still just say, well, it's been the darndest week. Everyone I've read for wants a child. It must be the moon. Yeah, you got to step back a little and try to be objective on this, okay? You have to reflect. Is this something that I have not resolved? Okay, so this is part of self-awareness. If it's an issue you haven't resolved, try not to put it into the cards. It isn't just purely a tool, in my opinion, of those things that we desire that we're reading into cards. Sometimes, I believe that you're accessing a higher consciousness and some kind of spirit information, maybe even your ancestors, depending on your belief system. But I don't think we're just digging into our own subconscious. If you are, and it's only for you, I don't really see the harm in that. Maybe it's a good way for you to work those issues out. But, if you're reading for others, you might want to stop right there until you've worked out your own stuff, or you're not going to get repeat clients. It's not going to resonate with them. People can tell. They can feel when you're just sort of fishing in the pond and coming up with these things. And I was very aware, looking at the person who was reading for me, that she desperately, wanted to have a child because it came out in other things she was saying. And she has mentioned that to me before. Okay? Same with, let's just say, the Queen of Cups. I love the Queen of Cups, right? I drew it. Okay, I'm biased. She's creative. She's having a great time here. She's holding a cup of coffee. Okay, maybe tea for some of you, coffee for me. She's got her guitar. She's singing away. She's a fish, maybe out of water. Let's think of that one. But she's by the water, okay? It's about emotions. It's about enjoyment, creativity, intuition, which water is very much symbolic of. But let's just say, okay, I hadn't played guitar in a long time, and it's something I desperately wanted to do. And it's in the image, just makes it really easy, I guess. And someone gets this card and I go, you know what? You should really play guitar. Now, sometimes that has worked out for me. It's been correct. But I'm still checking in with my gut. I'm not just looking. It's not just what I know intellectually about the card. It is that, okay, my gut is going, which one of these is it? And you're kind of going through the whole catalog, and your gut suddenly goes, you know what I think it is? Even though there's a guitar in this, I think it's about you following your bliss emotionally, and it happens to be, it could even be writing, even though that generally shows up for the King of Swords for me, or the Queen of Swords. If it hits that body feeling, then that could be it. Okay, let's do one more really quickly. Okay, I could go on forever here. All right, the Eight of Swords. Now, the Eight of Swords, swords again. Now, go watch that other video. Swords are a good thing. They're our friend. This bird, this raven, is in a circle of feathers and blindfolded, and swords are about communication. This is about an illusory kind of feeling trapped. I know that because swords are perception and thought, okay? So this crow could take off their blindfold and see that these feathers, you could just sort of walk through them. They're not really the kind of bondage or being stuck that this bird thinks they are. All right, that's the intellectual, I know that about this card, and I drew it, so I have, I really do know about it. But I have on occasion, because of my gut and using my self-awareness here, so if I was feeling trapped that day, or, because of COVID, I wouldn't necessarily to say to someone, you're feeling horribly trapped and stuck just because the drawing says so. I would listen to my gut and say, you know what? Oh, context. I think you can't express yourself here creatively, but you definitely can. So now that has some context. Also, it would be about this other person, and I would be very careful in how I'm reading my body reactions too, because saying, oh, you feel trapped is such an easy go-to. So you really do need to sit with that for a second, and don't be afraid of doing that, okay? If you're giving readings for people, you can pause. You can take a deep breath. Now, I know sometimes people go, oh my God, what are you seeing? It makes them nervous. But you can say, I'm seeing several things here. This has a deeper meaning than the usual just feeling trapped. I have a feeling it's not only that, but someone close to you you're expecting them to assist you, and they're not coming to your rescue. I think this is about you waiting to be rescued. It's not just about feeling trapped. And I can feel that in my body. I can locate that. Okay, so again, that's really vital. Okay, well, those were a few tips for getting a really good reading and thinking about it. And while I say that I've been reading for over 40 years, actually, that does not mean I'm not learning constantly or improving. That's not true. I always am. But what it does mean is I've taken a long time understanding my own body reactions. I'm very self-aware. Yeah, I'm not always fond of what I find, but I'm aware of my strengths, what may be perceived as challenges or weaknesses. I'm aware of all of the issues surrounding me before I go into a reading. So, part 2 and maybe a part 3, I'm going to explain a little bit more about how you ensure, even if you're not 100% self-aware, because this is an ongoing process, that you aren't projecting that you can find that gut feeling, and also things that will help put you in that frame of mind for accurate readings next week. So until then, thank you so much for watching this channel, this brand new burgeoning little channel. I appreciate it very much. Thank you for your comments and your feedback. I hope these things are bringing you a little bit of insight into reading and cartomancy in general. And also, don't forget, I'm going to leave a link below for the tarot session coming up in the first few days of September, okay? And there are other classes that may crop up now and then, but as I mentioned before, I have to kind of get back to artwork and writing. So I'm not going to be repeating classes that frequently, okay? I just have to sort of fit them in between all of that other wonderful stuff I get to do. So until next week, stay safe, stay happy, and thank you once again. Goodbye.